Hello, it is I, Andrine, Jewish American Priestess, here tonight with a new Hebrew reading. Trying to bring some light into the darkness of this time of year. So I'm going to take out at least one card from the Kalevala Fennica Mythologia deck today and read the story and do some Hebrew readings around it. Let's see what cards want to come out today for us. There's one. Is it just one today? Nope, it's two. Beautiful. Okay, those two. I'm going to take those two cards today, and you get to choose which one speaks to you, and then we'll do some Hebrew readings around it. And I will read a little bit more about the cards when we get into the reading, but I'll show you them right now. Actually, they came out this way, so we're going to start with this one. The first one that comes up is Ilmarinen. Ilmarinen. And this is what he looks like. You can see that he's got a hammer and an anvil and an orb of light around him, and he's on the top of a mountain or something. And the second card to choose from today is the Great Oak. And as you can see, there's a great oak tree, a water spout, and a small person with an axe. So these are your choices for today. We'll read these stories. We have Ilmarinen and the Great Oak. And these are both major arcana cards in the Mythologia Fennica deck. So we'll see which one speaks to you, and I'll put the timestamps down below, and then I'll see you in your reading. Alright, I'm going to set the Great Oak off to the side here. Alright, so for those of you who've chosen Ilmarinen, he is one of the major arcana in the Mythologia Fennica Tarot deck, and he is card number 1. So in tarot, that's the second card, and it is the Magician. And it's loosely affiliated with the Magician. Ilmarinen has a lot of similarities to the Magician for sure. His keywords are magic, the cosmic smith, communication, flexibility, brilliant intelligence, intuitive action, creation, mobility, ideas and visions gaining concrete form. So the story of Ilmarinen is he's the heroic smith of the Kalevala. He was one of 3 brothers to whom Ilmatar gave birth at the time of creation. Ilmarinen was the second born, Vainamoinen being the eldest and Lemminkainen the youngest. Ilmarinen was an old god of air and wind who controlled the weather and storm winds, which were born when he fanned the flames of his forge. He was also the protector of travelers. When the cosmos was created, Ilmarinen forged the celestial sphere and adorned it with the stars. In the tales of Kalevala, Ilmarinen is a mighty blacksmith who forged wondrous things from practically nothing. For Louhi, the mistress of Pohjola, he made the Sampo in exchange for the hand of her beautiful daughter, the maid of Pohjola. To succeed in the arduous tasks that Louhi gave him, he forged himself a fiery eagle and a golden plough, which he used to catch the great pike of Tuonela and to plough the field of adders. He helped the mother of Lemminkainen by forging a rake, which she used to collect the body parts of her dead son from the bottom of Tuonela's river. And he also began to make a shackle for Louhi, who had hidden the heavenly lights inside Pohjola's stone hill. Upon seeing what Ilmarinen was forging, the terrified Louhi released the lights to shine again on all of creation. It is told in Kalevala that when Ilmarinen began to forge the wondrous Sampo, he didn't have tools, a forge, or a smithy. There was not one handle of a hammer to be found in all of Pohjola. And furthermore, Louhi had ordered what materials Ilmarinen could use, and they were unsuitable as could be. But nevertheless, Ilmarinen began his work, as impossible as it seems, for he had something that is required for a true magician. He was able to forge concrete wonders founded on his own visions, and he made skillfully use of all four elements. He could execute his ideas on a concrete level. He was an enforcer of visions and fantasies who controlled his thoughts so well that the ideas materialized and refined themselves to their full glory in his hands. He was adamant and carried on with his work despite numerous setbacks. Even Ilmarinen couldn't produce his miraculous works without putting proper effort and labor into them. And they didn't succeed at first try. He forged wonders because he was willing to learn how to make them through trial and error. Many a useless contraption was cast back into the flames of his forge as he honed his ideas to an ever higher level. It could be said that Ilmarinen's Achilles' heel was his gullibility. In a tale about the birth of iron, he let the hornet trick himself and allowed old Wainamoinen to fool him up to the top of a spruce and then spirit him away to Pohjola against his own will. His tireless industry is almost cost him the hand of the maid of Pohjola when Wainamoinen tried to woo the lady while he toiled in his smithy. The smith symbolizes the forging of strong, new forms in your life, as well as power and masculinity. Ilmarinen forged the golden plough and the eagle, which helped him to overcome Louhi's task. This reflects the forging or the shaping of your higher self, as well as the eradication of worms of your subconscious, your doubts and fears, from your mind. Gold symbolizes the divine light and love of the treasures within you. The eagle represents immense strength and the boundless freedom that spreads before you, which you must utilize wisely. You have great skills and talents that you should refine further. Don't give up once you've discovered the gifts hiding inside you, even if you wouldn't at first succeed as well as you expected. Work on your ideas, and you shall see how they will begin to soar when the time is right. Do everything you can to make your dreams come true. Trust your vision, trust your instincts and your own strength, and dare to show others what you are capable of and who you really are. So very close to the traditional magician card. I'm going to try to set him here. He lost a tip. Okay. Well, all right then. All right, so we're going to do a reading with the wooden Hebrunes today. And I'm going to pull out, I think I'm going to do this six Hebrunes, and we'll read those and then we'll pull out the seventh at the end. Yeah, so we'll start with what comes down from above. And that is the letter Pe. The second position down here is for what is known about our situation. And I feel one trying to get out of the bag. It is the letter Kuf. The next letter position is the position of what is unseen in our situation. And we have the Ayin. That's very interesting. And then on the bottom will be what is the root cause of this situation now. I have Tet. And then up here in the corner will be what's challenging for us right now. We have Tsari. And then the sixth one will be what's our advice for the situation we're in. And our advice is Vav. Okay, let's take a reading of these letters. So the first letter is what's coming down from above. What is being gifted to us from the divine right now? And the letter that's coming up is the letter Pe. The letter Pe is a mouth. It's said to be the mouth of the divine, speaking the world into existence, using one's words as the tools that we use to create our reality. So in terms of Ilmarinen, it is about creation, but using the tool that one uses in creation is words, is speech. So we're speaking into existence that which we would like to see. And that's an important factor, and it's an important tool to use in creation. It's the tool that was used by the divine to create the entire universe. So it has to do with a mouth. It's a mouth speaking things into creation. It is the foundation of, it's a binary foundation of grace and ugliness. So it has to do with that continuum between what is beauty or grace all the way through to what is ugly. And I think that can be also foreseen as how we speak. You know, are we speaking blessing? Are we speaking curse? What is the way we're using our speech, beautifully or ugly? And how can we find the balance there? Pe is the number 80 in Gematria, so it represents the infinite. It represents that number 8 being the infinite times 10, so ultimate manifestation of infinity. And we can see that in its spiral shape, that it spirals in and out. So as one searches for the infinite, one might look both inside oneself as well as outside into the universe. It is about the mouth. It is about communication. Communicating with the divine, communications from the divine, and communications with each other. And it is, again, this spiral that goes infinitely in and infinitely out. And the breath which is the divine gift that gives us the capacity for speech and therefore for creation. Excuse me. As I've sat with each of the Hebrew letters and considered which of the tarot cards it feels appropriate for each of the letters. Traditionally, the Pei is affiliated with the Tower. But that's just in terms of the number of the letter versus the number of the tarot card. And yet when I sat with these, what came up for me as appropriate was the Hierophant. The Hierophant being an authority figure that speaks divine words. And that feels right to me in terms of what Pei has to offer. The Pei is this divine mouthpiece. It's a divine mouthpiece, like the Hierophant. A teacher who teaches wisdom coming from above. So that's the first letter in our reading. Chuck Ilmarinen back over here again. See if he will stay. Nope, he got a mind of his own. Okay, so the next letter that we have in our reading is the lower right letter, and that letter represents that which is known about the situation, and it is the letter Kuf. The letter Kuf is the letter that begins the word Kadosh. Kadosh meaning holiness, or that which is designated for service to the divine. It is the one letter in Hebrew that goes below the line. And so it represents going down into the world in order to find divinity, holiness amongst humanity. It's a sort of searching for divine sparks within humanity. It's also the last letter of the word tzaddik. Tzaddik meaning one who is righteous. So it speaks to righteousness and holiness. And it is the number 100 in Gematria. 100 being an ultimate manifestation of 10, which is 10 is an ultimate manifestation of 1. So we have 1, which is Aleph, 10, which is Yud, and Kuf, which is 100. So we've got the oneness of the divine, the seed or the one point of the divine, and holiness coming out of that. Kuf, in my reading of the traditional tarot cards, corresponds to the card Judgment. It's about the holiness of being renewed after a transformation. It's corresponds to the foundation of sleep in the Sefer Yetzirah, and its basic meaning is just holiness. And that's what we can see in our situation here. We've got something holy happening, some kind of holiness being manifested here. And what is unseen in our situation is the letter Ayin, which I find amusing because it is in the position of what is unseen, and yet the letter Ayin is an eye. It's about seeing. So what we don't see is something that is being able to see. We're unable to see what we're supposed to see. It corresponds to the foundation of laughter in the Sefer Yetzirah, the Book of Creation. So that makes me laugh also. It is affiliated with the tribe of Dan, which means judgment. So that's interesting because we have what I'm seeing is the judgment card here, but the tribe of Dan, which is judgment here. So we can see the holiness, but we can't see everything clearly here, according to this reading. We have some important speaking or manifesting of creation through speech happening, and there's holiness behind it, but we can't see everything. The letter Ayin corresponds to the number 70, which is an ultimate manifestation of 7, 7 being the number of days of creation. So there's some ultimate completion coming. So perhaps what we're not seeing is the end of a thing. There's something coming to an end here. And we don't know what that is. We can't see that yet. And there's laughter with that. There's some joy maybe in that completion that's coming, even though maybe things are looking kind of serious here, where we have to really consider how we're speaking. We really have to think about the holiness of the thing we're doing. And yet there's joy and laughter in the completion that's coming that we're unable to see as of yet. What the root cause of our situation is the letter Tet. And Tet is a letter that is a cup or a vessel or some kind of clay pot, perhaps, sometimes seen as a womb. So, and it is the number 9, so it has to do with gestation, it has to do with gestating something in an idea, or maybe actually physically gestating a person, 9 being the number of months of gestation in the human body. Tet corresponds to something good within. Tet is the first letter of the word Tov, which means good. So something good is in this cup. Something good is in this womb that we are working on gestating right now. Because it looks a little bit like a vessel or a container. It is the first time it appears in the Torah is in the word Tov, meaning describing the light of creation, that God saw that it was good. And so the vessel hides goodness within it. So something that we've been gestating, something that we've been working on, some idea or some kind of creation that's coming into being, has come, and that's what's causing our situation here. That it is traditionally affiliated with the tarot card of strength because of its numerical value, but intuitively Tet corresponds to the Empress card to me, because it is about creativity, fecundity, and nurturing. It's about motherhood. It's about giving birth to something and nurturing it into its manifestation. So somehow we have been working on gestating a thing, and it's coming to fruition, and that's what this is all about for us today. The challenge that we're running up against right now is the letter Tzadi. And Tzadi is about righteousness and justice. It's the first letter of the word Tzadik, whereas Kuf is the last letter of the word Tzadik. And it means someone who's righteous. Some say that it is a bent nun with a yud on its back. So it's about Nun being about humility. It's about being humble, but remaining connected to the divine. And so what might be a challenge right now is remaining righteous, or doing justice in the world, or remaining humble perhaps, or remaining connected to the divine. Whatever it is we've got going on here, something's challenging for us about justice. Something is maybe we need to release our concept of what is righteous. We need to release other people's idea about what is just and hold on to what we know is just. Really strive to stay connected to our own humility and divinity so that we can discover what is righteous in the situation or within us. But that's turning into a challenge right now. Whatever the case may be, something about righteousness or justice is challenging. Maybe we're struggling for justice in our life, or to help other people come to justice, and that's not being easy right now. So justice is up as a challenge for us right now. And what is going to be our advice for the situation is the letter Vav. Now, Vav is a connection. It is seen as a peg or a hook of some kind that holds things together. And Vav literally means and in Hebrew. It is the letter that holds things together in the Torah. It is a tall, it's said to be a tall, standing person with a slightly bowed head. So again, back to humility, and also being grounded, like being grounded into the earth like a root, and standing tall with your spine, connecting things together, connecting to the divine, connecting the earth and the heavens together. It is the number 6 in Gematria, which represents the 6 days of creation before the rest happens. So there's before the Shabbat, before the divine took a day off. So it's about active creation, or the completion of creation. And we've got a lot of hammering going on up here. So something has been created that our advice in the situation is to bring that creation to a completion, to finish our work, whatever it is we have been doing, whatever we've been gestating and we've needed to complete, that it's time to bring it to an end, and remain connected to ourselves, to the divine, to the people around us, and perhaps to justice itself. So in the traditional tarot, the letter Vav is connected with the Hierophant, but only because of the numerical value of the Vav compared to the numerical value of the Hierophant, which is, they're off by 1 because of the 0 in traditional tarot. But for me, as I sat with each of these tarot cards, the Vav corresponds more appropriately to the Lovers, because it's about connection and unity and cooperation. And so now let's pull out the last letter that will be our summing up, our completion here of the reading, our outcome of the story of Ilmarinen and how we are manifesting this idea of creation and hard work and dedication. The letter that wants to come out is the letter Bet. Okay. And the letter Bet is the second letter of the alphabet, the Bet, and it is a house. It is a dwelling place of some kind. It could be a building of any kind. It could be a house or a school or a synagogue or some other temple. But it's a structure of some kind where one dwells. And so it's about finding a way to dwell in maybe what you've built. Maybe this thing that we're building here is, your house is finally ready where you can move into it. It rules over the day Shabbat in the calendar. So it's about rest. You've got the 6th day, and then Shabbat is the 7th day. So it could be about just finding yourself at home and resting. It could be, in fact, as a home, it could be your body, where your soul lives. It could be taking care of your body and resting. And as we are in this dark time of year right now, it could be about just taking some time to rest and hibernate, as we are inclined to do as mammals. Take some time for rest. It is the first letter that is in the Torah, in the word Bereshit, which means in the beginning. It has all these meanings, which are kind of conjunctions or contractions. It's in, it is with, and it is to. So it's a small letter that means a lot. And so it's about being in the house. It's about being with someone, or being for or to someone. And Bereshit is in the beginning. It corresponds to the binary foundation and transformation of life to death, that continuum that goes from life to death, and from death, I guess, back to life. And it does govern the body, the mouth, and the body soul. So we've got mouth up here from the divine, and then we've got the human mouth here. And if you look closely, you can see that the letter Bet could fit right inside the Pei. As the divine is speaking the world into existence, the first word is Bereshit. So going back up to that, what's coming down from above is the divine mouth. And the conclusion of our reading is the first letter that comes out of that divine mouth, Bereshit. So it also has to do with the mouth and the body, and using one's words to create and carve existence into being. I see it as being connected to the matriarch Sarah, who made a home wherever she traveled and hosted guests in her tent. And for me, it corresponds to the tarot card, the moon, the mystery, the deep, the Tahom, the deep where we dwell always above the home, the moon in the sky. So we've got this creator here. Ilmarinen is one of the creators. He's the magician, in that he uses all his tools, and even when he doesn't have tools, he's able to blast through and create what needs to be created. And in our reading, the major tool we're given is the mouth here and the mouth here, and the womb. So we have 3 creation tools right here. That we have the mouth, that we speak things into existence as a gift from the divine. And what we know about the situation is that it is holy. There's holiness here. That whatever it is we're doing has been designated for divinity, has been designated for divine service. And what we can't see is sight. We can't see what is to come of all of this yet. But there's something good, something joyful about it. There's laughter unseen right now too. Coming up from bottom is whatever we've been gestating, the Tet representing the womb, holding something good within it. And our struggle is with justice. Our struggle is with remaining humble, remaining connected to the divine. And with that struggle, what we're encouraged to do is to connect with humility to the divine right there, and with the Vav. And as we do that, we'll come back home. We'll come back to the Beit. Come home to the house that we've built with all of our tools. And back to speech, back to speaking, back to rest. Back to finding our completion of rest after all our work. So that for those of you who chose Ilmarinen, the one who is able to forge all things with few materials. This has been your reading, and I hope that you find the tools that you need to create what you are gestating now, and that it brings you back home to yourself. I'll see you next time. So for those of you who chose the Great Oak, I'm going to read you the story of the Great Oak, which is very interesting. It is loosely affiliated with the Tower in the traditional tarot. The keywords are renewal, purification, understanding, new clarity, to become whole, fundamental, internal change, healing, collapse of old structures, inner growth, and self-knowledge. Wainamoinen, who was one of the heroes of the Kalevala, had risen from the primordial sea onto the barren earth, and on his behest, Samsa Pellervoinen, the spirit of vegetation and fertility, sowed the lands and bogs full of trees and plants. But one sapling hadn't sprouted. The maidens of the water were at the end of the headland gathering hay when a great monster rose from the sea and burnt the hay. The acorn rooted into the ashes and sprouted into a beautiful sapling. The oak grew swiftly, and soon its crown covered the sky. The clouds were snarled into its branches, and life became dark and unbearable, for the great oak prevented the sun and the moon from shining. Wainamoinen turned to the folk of water for help, and a small black man ascended from the waves. The man had brass mittens, brass boots, and a brass axe. And he looked so tiny and insignificant that Wainamoinen didn't believe that he would be of any use in felling the oak. But the man began to change, and in a moment he had grown as tall as the tree. The man struck the great oak so hard with his axe that fiery sparks flew everywhere, and with 3 strikes the mighty tree came crashing down. When it fell, the great oak splintered into pieces that brought fortune, but some of them fell on the waves and were carried to Pohjola. And from these splinters were born all the poisonous stings and pains and other plagues. When the great oak was gone, the moon and the sun were free to shine once more. The conclusion is that the sacred tree's seed was able to take root and grow only once the ground had become fertile, but later it clouded the sun and the moon, the lights of consciousness and subconsciousness. The snared clouds symbolized thoughts that were shackled instead of being allowed to roam freely and creatively. The great oak may symbolize some outer circumstances that make the life force fade. It can also depict mental forces taking root in the wrong place. Sometimes situations can grow out of hand, creating a demand for great changes. These changes happen especially in the inner world, but their ramifications spread to circumstances on the outside as well. The ones who come to the rescue is a small man from the sea. The sea represents the area of the subconscious and the unconscious, where the man symbolizes determination and inner strength that grow as strong as the present situation requires, and which will help you sort out your problems. The great oak is the inner structures and the utter destruction, which leads to a deep inner change and growth. The oak was not in balance with the rest of the world, and its felling was an imperative. The card that corresponds the great oak and the traditional tarot is called the Tower, and it symbolizes the complete destruction and rebirth of the inner world. As the old is destroyed, it gives way to something new. The oak may represent any faculty of the mind whose time it is to change and renew. You have hidden talents and strengths of which you may not have been aware before, and now they are coming to light. Life has its own ways to set free the things that have become stagnant or run their course, as well as guide relationships toward new growth. Dare you trust everything that happens is right? There's no point to get tangled in apparentness. Things aren't bad or good, but everything happens for the growth. Remember that the outcome is the right one to all those whom it concerns. I love the Great Oak card. It's beautiful, and it has so many symbols in it, including this very strange little person that comes up out of the water. I'm going to try to set that there and see if it will stay for our reading. Here we go. If it comes crashing down, we know that everything is as it should be. Alright, we're going to pull out 6 Hebrunes, and then we're going to read them, and then we'll pull out the 7th at the end of that reading. So let's just start with the 6, and we'll go through them. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, beautiful. I have to move these up, hold on a second. 5, and 6. Perfect. Okay, so starting with the letter on top, we have the first letter coming down from above is the letter Kaf. And Kaf is said to be the palm of a hand, or the sole of a foot. It's about giving and receiving. It's about whatever's above, like something that's over the head, like a keter, which means crown, or kippah, which is like a little hat. It has to do with power, which begins with the letter Kaf. It's the word koach. And it can also mean as, or like, or as if. It is also affiliated with being the roof of a sukkah, which is perfect for the great oak because it's branches, right? It's what we put on top of the sukkah is branches. And it is the thing that rules over the sun, so the oak covering up the sun, blocking out the sun seems appropriate too, because in a sukkah, the reason we put branches on top of a sukkah, or small dwelling that we use in the month of Tishrei, is to block out the sun. It's exactly what it's for. And it has to do with the binary continuum of wealth and poverty. Like I said, because it's the palm of a hand, it's about giving and receiving. It sort of resembles an outstretched palm. And it is, again, koach. It's about power. So what one can do with one's hand is to bestow power, or to use it to oppress someone. And I think the oak represents both those things. It can either be a powerful thing, or it can block out the light. Whatever one can do with one's hands in the form of power is Kaf. It is, in Gematria, it is the number 20, which is ultimate manifestation of the number 2, which is the letter Bet, which is a house. And so a sukkah is like a small house. It's a temporary house that's covered in skach, which is spelled Samek Kaf Kaf. So it's got 2 kafs in it, the skach. It is about, the keter, the crown that one could be placed on one's head in the form of power, but also the kippah, which I guess keeps one humble. It governs over the sun and space, as I said, and it is connected to the patriarch Yitzhak, who was bound hand and foot. He was subdued as a sacrifice. and he had the knife held over his head until an angel stayed the hand of his father Abraham. For me, it corresponds to the tarot card of strength. So it's about power, it's about survival and courage, inner drive and strength. And it's what's coming down from above. So we've got some kind of power, koach, coming from above. Something that is over our head in terms of power, and also maybe providing some sort of shelter for us. Some sort of shelter from the sun. Excuse me. What is known about our situation is the letter Samech. And Samech is a circle. It's a wheel, or some kind of cycle. We're in some kind of cycle here. In the ancient Hebrew, in the Proto-Hebrew, it is seen as a thorn, which is used both to protect and to keep things out. So it used to be that people would plant thorns around their property in order to keep their animals, their livestock in, and to keep predators out. So it's about protection. It's about being surrounded with protection from the divine, from ancestors, perhaps. And it's about cycles and circles. So what we can know right now about our situation is that we are protected. We are protected with perhaps something that is thorny, like a rose is protected by its thorns. It is a beautiful thing, but it is surrounded by thorns so that no one picks it just out of spite. It is also about the foundation of agitation. So that thorn comes into play again. So maybe there's something agitating us right now. We are surrounded with protection, but there may be some agitation right now in our situation here. We've got this, basically the Tower card. So that can be pretty agitating as well. And that's what's seen about our situation. And what's unseen is the letter He. And He is the first letter of the word Hineni, which means presence. So even though we have this agitation, and we know that we're surrounded, we also need to remember, maybe we're unaware that we need to remember to be present, that presence is essential here. He is the letter that corresponds to the number 5. So it has to do with artisanship, artistry. The 5 fingers being that which makes us dexterous, like the little man that comes up and helps in this situation. So though we're surrounded and maybe we're agitated, maybe we don't see the help that is there for us if we can stay in presence. It corresponds, like I said, to the 5 fingers in terms of action in the world and artistry and artisanship, but also to the 5 levels of soul, the nefesh, the ruach, the neshama, and the chaya, and the yechida. So we have 5 different levels of soul that are being tried here in this difficult tower situation. But He is also 2 of the 4 letters of the divine name, the Yud He Vav He. So we have half of divinity here by just remaining present. It's about being or becoming. The word Havaya, which means presence, or it's an anagram for the Tetragrammaton, which means beingness. It's another name for the divine. And the divine brings time into creation. The past is Haya, the present is Hove, and the future is Yehil Yeh. And they all have a He in them. And they all make up the name of the divine. It is one of the 12 single letters in the book of the Sefer Yetzirah, and it corresponds to the foundation of sight. The word light shows up 5 times in the creation story, and so because He is affiliated with the number 5, it's about light and sight. And here we have this tree that grew up and cast darkness on the land, but what we're not seeing is that there's light underneath it, that there's light beyond our situation. Again, if we can remain present, if we can remain in connection with divinity, that we know that there's light on the other side of this darkness. And as I said, as we're in this dark time of year, it's easy to forget or to not be able to see the light. This is the area. This is the position of what we can't see right now. We can't see the light. We can't see sight. We can't see that on the other side of this situation, whatever it is, the light is coming. It is, for me, connected to the tarot card of the Hanged Man, because it's about surrender and waiting, just staying present as we move forward. So I'm going to set that back here. That is our unseen situation. And the main cause for our reading today is the letter Mem, and it is the mother letter that corresponds to water. And Mem is it's a creation letter. It is about the waters of life, the Mayim Chaim. And I love that, because out of the water here comes this little person who ends up being much greater than he appears. And it's what rectifies the situation. So underneath it all, we have the water. And it represents a womb. It is the number 40 in Gematria, which corresponds to the 40 weeks of gestation in the human body. It is so it's about gestation, it's about pregnancy and the, kind of that amniotic fluid. But it can also be about cleansing. And again, the Tower card, the great oak, is about cleansing. It's about taking that which is chaotic and letting it fall away. So the Mem is about cleansing, as water is used in ritual cleansing in terms of a mikvah. We talk about the flood in the Torah, the great flood of Noah, which cleansed the earth of all the evil that was there. And it has to do with the belly in the body. So again, in the womb, but also just the belly, that center part of us. It has so many affiliations because water is just ubiquitous. The idea of water can be seen as the divine in Torah. That it is what we are made up of. And also most of the planet on which we live is water. So it has to do with the deep, the below, the underworld. Maybe the unseen, the sea monsters and the whales, Leviathan. And it is the winter. It's the time of year we're in right now. It's about cold, wet time of year in this hemisphere. And it balances out the heat of summer. So it can be about cold, wetness right now. So many affiliations with the Mem. Mem can be seen as a Torah. It's about the life-giving waters of Torah. All learning comes from below. Source cause of a root cause of the situation is the water, the winter, the darkness, the cleansing that needs to happen. And as we move up to that, which is a challenge here, we have the letter Vav. And the letter Vav is about connection. It is literally the word and in Hebrew. It is the number 6 in Gematria, so it has to do with the 6th day of creation. So that the divine is basically finished creating but has not yet rested. It is a tall, straight spine, but it's also a root that goes into the ground, like the oak that grew up out of that acorn. It needed deep roots in order to grow as tall as it did. It's about standing tall and reaching up to connection with the divine, but also being rooted deep in the ground. So our challenge here is to stay connected through all this turmoil that we're experiencing with the great oak, with the tower moment, is to remain connected to both to the earth and to the heavens, to remain connected to both divinity and our home. It is, again, connection and one of the letters of the divine name, along with the Yud He and the Vav and the He. So Vav is that connection between presence and presence. It corresponds to the foundation of hearing in the Sefer Yetzirah. So it's about hearing and listening. As we sit in presence, we may be challenged with actually hearing what we need to hear, and to remain connected. And our advice for the present is the Zayin, which is really interesting because it looks a little bit like that axe that this little man is holding to chop down the tree. And the Zayin is about a sword or a scepter, so it is a sharp tool that one might use to cut through. It's about power. It's about using our own power. It's about sovereignty, our inner sovereignty, our divine sovereignty. It is all these things magic. It's the number 7, so it's about completion. It's about coming to an end. It's about Shabbat, resting after creation, not because the divine needed to rest, but because rest is a holy act. But our advice here is to step into our own personal sovereignty, to use the power that we have to cut through whatever garbage we've got going on, and to take time to rest. It is connected to the foundation of smell, which is interesting. Smell having to do with memory. It's the limbic system that triggers our memories. And it has to do with, to me, this corresponds to the tarot card, the Emperor. So again, stepping into our own personal authority to find our power and to take the time we need to rest, to accept our inherent deservingness, to take rest after our times of creation. So if we're running into difficulty with connection, remember to rest, remember to own your sovereignty. We have one more letter to pull out here. Excuse me. Our outcome this reading about the great oak. And the letter that wants to come out is the letter Nun. Okay. So Nun is a letter that means humility. It is about humbleness, ne'aman, faithfulness, loyalty. It's said to be a bent servant bowing their head. But it can also correspond to the word nes, as in miracle. You know, you've seen on the dreidel, we've got nes gadol hayasham, meaning a great miracle happened here. And so we've got humility, but we've also got a miracle, some kind of miraculous thing that is coming out of this situation. It corresponds to the month Marcheshvan, which just ended, and the stomach in the body. It is said that it means loyal and humble and bent, and it also means deceit. In the Zohar, it stands for deceit. So there's a lot of affiliations with Nun. In the Gematria, it is the number 50, which corresponds to the Jubilee or the Yovel, which is every 50 years, where we get freedom. There is renewal and rest and forgiveness of debts and land returned to its original owner, which is Hashem, the divine. The understanding that land doesn't belong to us, that land is free. Land belongs to only the divine. But in the Jubilee year, everyone is entreated to release all of their slaves. So there's freedom here in humility. There's freedom. And in that, after this tower moment, after we've gone through all of the trials and tribulations and such, we come to this final Nun, which gives us freedom in the 50th year, in the ability to release ourselves from the debt, emotional debt, mental debt that we have racked up, that now we can release. And in my understanding of the correspondences with the tarot, this letter Nun corresponds to the Hermit card, because we sit with ourselves in humility, and out of that we find enlightenment and freedom. And that's what brings the conclusion to this reading, is that ability for humility and freedom. So just to recap, we've come from a place of power, koach, and both power and oppression, that perhaps something has shaded out the sun for us, that has blocked the sun, like this great oak. It's given power, but it's maybe taken too much power. Either too much power over us, or we've wielded too much power over a situation that's become untenable. And although we're surrounded with protection, which is known, there's some agitation, definitely agitation about what's going on. What we can't see is that despite that agitation, presence exists, that light is underneath, that there's sight and light on the other side, but we can't see it yet. That this entire situation is born out of a need for cleansing, for a mikvah of some kind, for some kind of great washing, some flood that needs to come through and clear out whatever trouble this situation has caused for us. There needs to be some kind of cleansing through water. maybe this time of year when we're in the cold, when we're in the winter. This is what's causing the situation, is that we have a great need for the mother water to come in and clean things up for us, or freeze them out in the winter, as it may be. And we're challenged right now with connection. We're having a challenge connecting. We're having a challenge remaining rooted and connected to divinity. We're having trouble remaining rooted and being humble in our situation. And our advice for that is to step into our own sovereign power, to wield that sword as need be and chop things off. That we need to take the time that is our divine given gift of rest, that holiness that is rest on the seventh day, that we take a Shabbat. And through all of that, we will come to humility and freedom that comes from being released of debt, released of slavery, released of the things to which we have enslaved ourselves. That tree can come down, that it will release the sun, and that we'll have the ability again then to grow to our appropriate size without having that power get out of control. And so for those of you who chose the great oak, which has come in this form, a tower moment, this has been your reading. I hope that you can find whatever it is you need to do to get through this tower time, to find the little person who will come out and help you chop down that tree, to bring balance back into your life, to find the appropriate thing that's cleansing from the water. And I hope that this has been useful for you, and that I will see you here next time.